E minor sounds moody. Rock is energetic. Major seventh chords are relaxing.
Welcome to this very quick video on Suno training and ownership. Yet another scenario from our brilliant subscribers. We got one in from Doug today, and it does require a video of its own. Here's a scenario. I'm a pro user who inputs a 2-minute song. I actually publish it with barely any enhancement, maybe just extend the outro. Suno is allowed to train on my song. What does that mean? Let's break down the first part of Doug's question. Let's demystify AI training processes in music systems. When we're talking about AI training in music, it involves using algorithms to analyze vast amounts of musical data and learn patterns, to learn structures and styles, to generate new music, to assist in music production, or even personalize listening experiences. On this channel, you've seen me demo LaNDA. That will be another example of how AI can look at patterns and understand waveforms to go with what type of music. So the process of training AI essentially teaches AI to understand music by identifying statistical correlations. Those correlations could be between musical elements and associated labels. Depending on the organization, they may choose genre or mood or instrumentation or pattern or voice type. Going a little bit deeper, when it comes to data input and analysis, AI models are trained on large data sets of music, millions and millions of pieces, often including metadata such as mood, instrumentation, and especially genre. Algorithms analyze these data sets, breaking down the music into elements which may not be human understandable and identifying statistical relationships. For example, an AI might learn that a particular chord progression is often associated with a happy mood. Even this bare bones example is evident in the keyboard known as Go Keys 5 that categorizes chordal patterns by mood. Another example is a specific drum pattern is common in certain genres. Secondly, when it comes to generative capabilities, once trained, AI can be used to generate new music based on text prompts or by manipulating existing musical elements. AI music generators such as Google's Music LM, which I hope to feature on this channel, can produce music that matches a given description, even incorporating specific instruments or moods. The quality of AI-generated music can vary, though, and it often requires refinement and human intervention to achieve a desired sound or style. When it comes to using AI as a production tool, it can be used in music production tasks such as preset selection. AI can suggest suitable sounds and effects based on desired mood or instrumentation. When it comes to mixing and mastering, such as what I've demoed from LaNDA, AI can analyze and optimize audio level frequencies and spatial characteristics. When it comes to remixing and reharmonization, AI can be used to create variations of existing tracks or explore different harmonic possibilities. AI can also be used in vocal synthesis, such as what I've shown you from Audemy. It can also be used for manipulation of vocals. AI can generate or modify vocal parts, including lyrics and melodies. When it comes to ethical considerations, the use of AI in music raises ethical questions about authorship, copyright, and potential biases in algorithms. If AI is used to create music, who owns the copyright? Is it the user? Is it the AI developer? Or is it the AI itself? AI algorithms trained on specific datasets may perpetuate existing biases, potentially favoring certain genres or artists over others. In essence, AI training in music is a process of teaching machines to understand and generate musical patterns, assisting musicians and potentially revolutionizing the way music is created and consumed. So, to summarize in the eyes of Suno what training means, Suno does not store your song directly. It learns statistical patterns, melody, rhythm, and instrumentation. Your song is part of a massive data set, which you could refer to as the soup. Outputs are new combinations, not direct copies, but recognizable similarities in some rare instances may occur, depending on a number of variables. Let's take a look at some of the variables in this equation. Here we can see the input layer, green circles, x1, x2, all the way to xn. Think of these as the raw data points that you feed into the model. Each input can represent a feature. For example, Music AI could process this as x1 is pitch, x2 could be rhythm, x3 could be loudness, x4 could even be part of your waveform, all the way to xn. There's a plethora of possibilities that you can extrapolate from music, and these are the variables, part of the input layer. Now, if you have n features, you get n input nodes. There are also what we could call hidden layers, and these are the purple circles, H1, H2, all the way to HM. We call these hidden because you don't see them directly. They are the model's internal calculations. You as a user, you don't even need to know about this. Each circle is a neuron that takes inputs, applies weights, adds biases, and runs it through an activation function. I won't go into any more detail about that, but just understand that these layers detect patterns in the data. So the first hidden layer may detect intervals in a melody or intervals between notes. Deeper layers may detect more abstract patterns like recognizing chords and understanding the intervals between the notes in the chords, or harmonies, or seeing them as full objects. Number 3, the connections, the arrows. Every input connects to every neuron in the hidden layer, and each arrow has a weight that determines how strong that connection is. During training, the system adjusts these weights to minimize error. Take a look at the red. This is the output layer. These red circles, Y1 all the way to YK, well, this is the model's final prediction, the final output, whatever that might be, whatever you're looking for. Each node represents a possible outcome. For example, in classification, each Y is a probability of belonging to a certain class. For example, classical, rock, jazz. In regression tasks, Y could be continuous values like predicting beats per minute or loudness. Now finally, we got to talk about the flow. Input data, X1, X2. This enters the network. The hidden layers transform it through multiple nonlinear steps. Patterns become clearer as they pass deeper into the network. The output layer produces the final predictions or results. Think about the input in a very simple way. I like using the analogy of flour, eggs, sugar. You know where I'm going with this, because you know the hidden layers are going to be the mixing and the baking. You don't see it happen, but the transformation occurs. Now, when you go to the store to purchase that cake, that's your output layer, and that's the final result you care about. You don't care about all of the hidden layer stuff, and all of that stuff is happening inside Suno. Let's take it for another test spin. Now I've given you an idea that is a little bit nebulous. I'll make it more specific now. Take an example of an AI neural network, Suno in this case. The input layer, green, that could be melody, rhythm, and timbre. These are the raw features from your uploaded song. Melody is the notes, rhythm is the timing and the groove, the swing, timbre is the instrumental aspect or the voice color. Each feature connects via weighted arrows, telling the system how important each element is. The hidden layer that you see here, which is the blue, we can say this is A, B, and C, representing patterns. The AI transforms inputs into basic patterns, intervals, beats, timbre clusters, and each neuron is like a detector for small chunks of musical information. When you simply put in a textual prompt, it doesn't need to decode anything you put in, but when you input a prompt, such as what I do, putting in a lot of audio, then it will go through a lot of these understandings of what music I just input. When you're putting in a textual prompt, it doesn't need to go through this step. It assigns it based on its training, based on the prompt that you put in, the textual prompt, and it's able to associate what matches your prompt in terms of melody, rhythm, and timbre. Simple prompts such as minor chord makes the system select minor melodies, minor chordal structures. The hidden layer, the bright blue, could be style blend, harmony recognition, and so on. The system combines low-level patterns into higher-level abstractions. Style blend, for example, integrates multiple influences. We could say, in my example, combining jazz and trap and heavy vocals. Or you could say someone combining pop, EDM, or something else. When it comes to harmony recognition, it understands chord progressions and how notes fit in it. Now, where there's a malfunction, you could actually hear Suno play wrong notes on a chord. That's where the algorithm didn't get it right. Now, I would imagine that Suno has a safeguard step, which is not shown in simple neural net examples such as this. But I'm going to imagine, to protect themselves, before final output, it would make sense for the algorithm to usually perform an infringement scan. In this way, they compare the generated piece against a reference library of copyrighted works. The goal is to ensure the output is new enough and not a carbon copy of training data. Think about this like YouTube's Content ID, but used proactively inside the generation pipeline. Finally, the red output layer, this is the generated song or the new melody line or whatever you ask the tool to do. The process patterns are decoded into sound. Final outputs are filtered to avoid direct duplication. When you get your output, it's a new arrangement or a melody extension, but shaped by these learning patterns that I've explained. So the bottom line is, your melody can influence the AI's learned patterns, but modern systems often apply novelty checks so that the outputs don't infringe directly. There are lots of gateways in Suno that have guards. So one gateway is pumping in audio that in my mind is illegal because you don't own it. Another gateway is putting in a prompt with an artist's direct name. These gateways are monitored and you are not allowed to pass through the gate if it has any of that information. So Suno has done some homework ensuring that their outputs don't infringe directly, and also your input does not infringe potentially. If something slips through and sounds substantially like your melody, your copyright registration and evidence trail is your tool to claim ownership credits. Now, I understand why this is a big deal, because there are many geniuses in the world who are musical wizards, but they have that concern just like Doug. So let's address Doug's question finally. So Suno is allowed to train on my song. Now you've got a clear idea of what that means. Doug says, let's say another pro user writes just lyrics, but my melodies, my sound, my instrumentation is utilized in their song. Because this pro user has the funds to promote or market, in a way I can't, their song creates more views, streams, and so on. Basically, they're making more money. Is this a possible scenario? And if so, what would I have to do to claim ownership credits for that melody? Well, I can understand the trepidation here because my work was plagiarized. In fact, this individual chopped off a chunk of my YouTube video and stuck it in the beginning of their professional track from a professional label and refused to admit wrongdoing. Now, they will have their day in court, but theft cannot be stopped. What you can do is ensure you have your paper trail and you can take action. Even top artists experience this. So, while you cannot protect your work from being stolen, you can take action to ensure people pay for whatever they do to work. In the same token, someone can take your work that's readily available and stick it in Suno. So, you cannot stop it, but you can take these safeguards. Your paper trail, your composition trail, those are the things you could use in an event of litigation. So going deeper into Doug's scenario, we've talked about training, so that's off the table. Another user writes only lyrics. It's also very possible. Suno generates music using your melody or your sound or style. It's highly unlikely that your direct melody that you put into Suno would be used based on what I've just explained. But could it happen? Let's dig a little bit deeper. Now, if that were to happen, could your melody reappear? Yeah. Another user's song resembles yours? Yeah, happens all the time. Especially if your melody is very simple. Now, AI can echo training data in outputs. If resemblance is only stylistic, you can't protect that. If it's a clear melodic production that is a more advanced melody, then it might be an infringement. So if I compose based on do, re, mi only, mi, re, do, re, mi, well, it's likely there will be many more songs in the world that have that simple arrangement. But as you begin to add more of the 12 options in music, it is highly unlikely that your exact melody will be found. But don't you understand that there are lots of songs that sound similar, even in mainstream? So for legal protection and ownership, as a pro user, you own your generated songs. Just know that. Melodies and lyrics are copyrightable. Chord progressions, styles, instrumentation are not. To claim ownership, register your song with the Copyright Office. I have done that on songs that I believe are just an absolute marvel. Now, I have hundreds and thousands of songs, but I'm not going to do that for my hundreds and thousands of songs that I feel are not as unique. But if you have a gem and you want to register it, absolutely do that. Now, also keep your paper trail. The timestamps in Suno are another piece of evidence that you could use in court. Keep your DAW files, timestamps, and release evidence. If you need to hire musicologists to show similarity, just like they have done in the Marvin Gaye case and other cases, well, you probably have to do that. Now, if that should ever happen, confirm similarities by comparing the two melodies and gather evidence. Your project files, your copyright registration, your Suno timestamps. Contact the other party first. File a claim, DMCA, right? Take down or legal action, and potential remedies, credit, royalties, or removal. Good friends of mine experienced this with another very well-known artist. So this very well-known group experienced a blatant ripoff by the producer of a very well-known artist. If I mention the individual, you would know who it is. But as opposed to going down the litigation rabbit trail, they're looking to settle. And that's how things like this generally pan out. Now, the bottom line is this scenario is possible. The risk is low, but real, given how AI models work. Ownership depends on copyright and substantial similarity. Now ask yourself the question, someone going on Suno, what is the likelihood they're even going to get a hit? And you just go, It's one of those things that makes you think, but at the same time, you realize it's possible, but unlikely. Nonetheless, protect yourself by registering works and saving evidence. One of the ways I get around this, when I put my information into Suno, it is cataloged, it's timestamped by Suno themselves, but I do not use straightforward melodies under most circumstances. And I don't stay relegated to just 1 or 2 keys. Out of the 12 keys, I might use all of them in a song, or I might use at least 5 to 7. And that's just the way I compose sometimes. I don't do that all the time. But I minimize the potential of someone having a work that sounds exactly like mine by incorporating a number of those initial input variables we talked about. I'm making sure I am bringing the melody, not Suno. I am bringing the harmonies. I am bringing the chordal structures. I'm bringing the beats. I'm bringing the rhythms. And a lot of times I'm feeding those into Suno, and there is very, very little likelihood that anyone else in the world will have those same words, that same tempo, that same beat, and that same eclectic mix. So when you're composing for Suno, you got to be ready to take the hit for songs that are not that important, should it ever happen. That's how I think, right? So if I make a song, do, re, mi, re, do, re, mi, well, I don't care if someone copies a do, re, mi, re, do, because it had very little effort. And besides, you probably find something like that in the public domain. But jokes apart, if infringement occurs and you have enough documentation and evidence and timestamps, yeah, you can pursue credit or royalties. But anyway, you already know my philosophy with Suno. I cover that in a different video. Thank you for the question, Doug. I hope this helps clarify things, and I wish you all the very best, Suno or AI music journey. Bye for now.